Thank you, Alex, for coming to chat to us in our Reboot series. It's really an opportunity to hear from businesses who are adapting and transitioning over the last couple of months. And I think you've got quite an interesting story to tell. But before we dive into it, maybe you want to introduce who you are and a little bit about Xist.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Xist2 is a digital marketing agency. We're a relatively small team. We're a team of 7 based in Oxfordshire, or originally based in Oxfordshire anyway, and I guess we'll come on to that a bit later. And we focus on designing and building websites, running search marketing campaigns for customers, and we have a creative studio that produce artwork for customers. And we have a slightly a joined part of the business, which is focused on CRM and a CRM product called Zoho. And that's really a part of the story as well, because that's really been the silver bullet in aiding us to go fully digital and remote very easily, very quickly, with very limited hassle. So that's in a nutshell what we do. Yeah, far away with some questions.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, what's happened? What's the journey that you've been on in the last 4 months?
Yes, I think it's been a bit unbelievable for everybody, hasn't it? It happened so fast, and it seemed, I think we all probably thought, you know, we'll work from home for a couple of weeks and we'll be back in the office and it'll be kind of business as usual. And it was very much not that, as we've all found out. And I think the key thing that really kind of made us make that jump from having a physical office to kind of going remote was really just that actually our office space, although it's really important, it's been great in years gone by for us to be close together as a team. And I'm a very personable kind of person. I really enjoy spending time with real people in the flesh. The reality of that is that it was going to be too difficult, I think, as we all came back, and with added sort of social distancing, it was going to be very difficult to entertain customers in the way we would have done before. We had a boardroom in the office, and it was a reasonable size, but when you've got, you know, 3, 4, 5 customers in, and maybe you've got 2 or 3 of your own team, social distancing in a closed room, you know, with a door shut and maybe one Velux window open just wasn't going to work. So it was a pretty pragmatic decision, I think. We just kind of thought, look, realistically, there aren't going to be very many customers, and the proof's been in the pudding. I mean, we haven't had many customers that have, you know, been willing to you know, I've on a series of occasions since then said, look, I'm more than happy to drive over and have a social distance meeting. No, don't worry about it. We'll stick with Zoom. So you know, I think the proof has been in the pudding, and I think it probably was the right call. But we just kind of thought, well, look, we're going to be paying rent for you know, however many months and years to come, potentially not really being able to utilize the office properly. So there was a kind of pragmatic part of it. We just thought, actually, let's just get rid of this cost center we really don't need in the business right now. And actually, we're already, I think it was an easier decision to make because we were already set up in a very virtual cloud-based way anyway. All the applications we use are all cloud-based. We really were just picking up where we left off. We just grabbed our Macs, went home, plugged in, and away you go. It was really, really straightforward. So I think, and I think the other part of it is, you know, we have historically struggled a bit with recruitment in Oxfordshire. It is hard finding the right kind of people who have got the right kind of skill sets and the right level of experience that are prepared to come and work from your office in rural Oxfordshire or wherever you are. And actually kind of officially becoming a more, you know, a digital business has just opened up that pool and that opportunity to actually say it doesn't really matter where you are. I mean, we're already a bit of a global business anyway. We've already got people in Australia and Thailand and all over the place that are working for us on a regular basis. So I think it's just it's maybe put to bed some of the old sort of management worries maybe of, you're going to be playing on your Xbox all day, not really doing any work. You know, actually, it's, you know, I think we've overcome a lot of that, and just it just drives home trust, and you really have to trust your staff to get on with the job. And there's loads of things we've done to try and better manage our time, I think, from home. But we'll come on to that, I guess. But in the round, I think it's we've realised that we really don't need to have a physical office location. I think in the short term, there's a cost-saving sort of exercise to go through, and actually, it's opened up opportunity to hire people from further afield that we might not have done before.
I think that's something you can relate to, Stefano, can't you? I think being able to pull people, to hire the right people into your business and not restricted by geographic location, I think is
is interesting, especially for the recruitment side. I think was something that a lot of businesses in Oxfordshire particularly struggle, and London, the commuting, the location, finding the right talent to be assigned to the right project. And like when you work with international companies, the time zones are so different, and the culture about having an office work from like 9 to 5, and it's never been 9 to 5. It's always been 10-hour day, especially for a business owner. You always have the extra things to do. I think technology is obviously played a big part, but I'm interested to know in terms of like culturally. So from your point of view, what's changed in terms of how you think of keeping the culture going, and what type of things you doing to carry on with the culture but without being in the office?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it hasn't been that easy, I've got to be honest. When you're not around each other and you're not so easily sharing your weekend experience or what you did last night over a coffee in the kitchen or wherever, those kind of water cooler type discussions are harder to have, or just don't happen at all, and you have to make more of an effort, I think, to make that stuff happen. But I think the pros can sometimes outweigh the cons, actually, because I think it's very easy when you're in an open plan office, which we were, to just call across the office and ask a question, massively interrupting them in the middle of quite a focused session they were doing. And you get to the end of the day and you think, what have I actually done today? This is crazy. I've just interruption after interruption after, and you just dream of your own sort of office. And actually, I think it's just made us kind of make each communication counts. If you're gonna, we've got a bit like Slack. We use a platform called Click. We all instant message each other questions. You set your status, and if you're busy, you just don't look at your Click and you carry on. But people are generally pretty accommodating across the team, and we all get back to each other pretty quickly. I think what we've done to try and maintain a bit of the culture from before is actually we have a kind of a stand-up meeting, video stand-up meeting at 9 o'clock every day and at 4:30 every day. So we're all very aware of what the schedule is, what we've got to do, what the agenda is, any problems we're having, whatever it might be. And there's plenty of time in that to still maintain a bit of banter. And some people in the team get a pretty hard time. But there's plenty of banter going on. And I think we're trying to make more of an effort to, I don't know about you, I don't know about most people that have been working from home, you can kind of go several days before you've even stepped foot outside sometimes, it feels. By the time you've kind of put the kids to bed and you've made dinner and had breakfast and all that kind of stuff and you've finished your day, you're knackered. It's time to go to bed again. And so I think we're trying to, I guess we've all got our own responsibility. We've all got to try and, exercise and do all those kind of things, which, some of us enjoy more than others. But, we're trying to, on a maybe a bi-weekly basis, meet up and just go for a walk. Just take a morning out as a team and just do, social distance and go for a nice 6-mile walk. Obviously, hopefully when things are eased a bit further and people feel more comfortable going to a restaurant and having dinner, we were quite a sociable team anyway, and we used to eat out quite a lot together. So we'll pick up kind of where we left off with that. But so far, I'd say so good.
Brilliant. I love the sound of that. And even if you have a geographically dispersed team, like almost scheduling that time to take time out and do it yourself. And if you enjoy going for a walk or a swim or just some quiet time to do the things you enjoy, I think that's going to be it's really important, isn't it? So it's great to see you're already doing that. I was quite interested in you mentioned Click and also you mentioned your Zoho partner, Alex. So looking at the technology and I suppose how technology has enabled you to do what you're doing and maybe where you've identified gaps or things you didn't think you need. Like, so what are you looking at from a technology perspective now?
Yeah, so we used kind of cloud document storage and all that kind of stuff anyway. And the Zoho suite of applications, there's about 45 of them, and it's kind of growing. But, you know, you can think of most business applications and they pretty much got an application for it, and it's all joined together. So we kind of had a scenario sort of 5 years or so ago where we didn't really have a particularly robust support ticketing system. And I would be speaking to a customer completely unaware that another colleague was dealing with a support ticket for that customer, and you just can end up looking like a bit of a plonker if you're not aware that something's kind of going on. And I guess, you know, none of us saw this coming, but we've actually, you know, we tried to address that problem back then to make sure that everybody had transparency of more or less everything that's going on within the business. So all of our finance, our HR, our ticketing system, project management, social media management, instant messaging, video conferencing, all of that is a run through Zoho. And everyone can see everything that's happening with every customer all of the time. So there's no excuses, you know, there's no kind of, oh, I wasn't aware of that. You know, you just got to look. That's, I think that tool has made a huge difference to how quickly we've been able to adapt, because we weren't having to go through the journey of setting it all up as part of then working remotely. It was already robust and set up and working, and we improved it over the past sort of 4 or 5 years. And we're an implementation partner, as you say, for Zoho. So you know, we implement it for you know, a series of customers and businesses across the piece, really. So in terms of gaps, I mean, that Zoho definitely doesn't. It doesn't do everything brilliantly. You know, there are definitely some areas where it's weaker than other applications. We certainly found from a video conferencing perspective, Zoom was massively superior to the Zoho application, and we use that fairly religiously now. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I seem to have every video conferencing application under the sun installed on this machine. It's an absolute joke. You know, you try and set up a meeting and, oh, I don't use Zoom, I use Teams, and oh, I don't use Teams, I use Skype, and so on. Yeah, I don't think there's been, I say this carefully, I don't think there's been any particular technical application or technical process necessarily we've really had to change, or particular gap, to be honest, that we've had to try and fill. It's really just carried on working as we did before. Thankfully, I mean, we definitely don't walk on water. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's been a relatively straightforward transition.
Yeah, so I think it's again is really interesting and insightful, because I think the technology, it was there. I think do you think it was more about a mindset? So you had to switch into a different mindset to use the same technology, but use it in a different way, so you could still achieve what you always wanted to achieve. But
yeah, I think it was very easy to be lazy in the office before. Maybe not look at the systems, maybe not look at the detail, and just call across the office because you know that person knew anyway. We've had to work a bit harder at just, yeah. I think you're right. Just kind of thinking twice about pestering someone, and you know, or it makes, because you're going to initiate a phone call, or you're going to instant message someone. You think twice about doing that before you kind of check your records, or you check your CRM, or you check your finance system, or whatever it might be. I think something that has worked quite well for us is actually by having and it was difficult to get it right. I think at the start we had 3 calls a day. We had a 9 a.m., a 1 o'clock, and a 4:30, and it was just too much. It was just too, you know, you'd be talking about stuff that you hadn't done because there hadn't been enough time, because there'd been too many other distractions and other things you were doing. So it's just fruitless. So we canned the midday call, but by having a morning and afternoon call, I think it's kind of got us into a mindset of everyone makes a series of commitments at 9 o'clock as to what you're going to do that day. There are much less, you know, so many less distractions than when we were in the office. So actually, you set realistic targets, and at 4:30, if you haven't done them, you need to explain why you haven't done them. I mean, it's not that it's you know, you're going to get beaten over the head or anything, but it's just. I think that process alone has made us more productive, as well as working remotely. It's just got more out of us, because, you know, we weren't really doing that before. We were doing once weekly meetings, and they were quite broad brush meetings. And then we all just kind of got on with our workflow through the week. And before you know it, another week's gone, and you haven't done half the stuff you intended doing. And maybe you've put the focus in the wrong places. So that's been a good process to put in place.
That sounds good. Yeah. And I guess, so what are the biggest things that, or biggest benefits that you've seen, like personally as well, Alex? Because I mean, I know you've got a young family as well. So, what do you see personally as the advantages?
It's been awesome.
Yeah,
it's been great. Much less commuting. I had a client meeting last week with a company in South Wales. Ordinarily, I probably would have taken 2 of the team with me to a project kickoff meeting. We would have probably done a 2-hour meeting. It probably would have been a 2-hour drive there and a 2-hour drive back. Most of the day would have kind of been gone probably. And we did the whole meeting in 40 minutes and we had the rest of the day. I mean, it's just, which is awesome. So we're all much better off time-wise from just a kind of business management perspective, day-to-day routine. And personally, having breakfast with the children, having lunch with the children, having dinner with the children. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great.
But
it has been nice. Yeah, and just in the evening, going for a run and having the time and the inclination to go for a run, because actually at 5:30 I can say I'm done for the day on that particular day, and just put my shoes on and go for a run and take 2 of the kids with me, and they can cycle it. That's great. By the time I'd got back previously, it would have been probably the middle of bath time. We would have been, stories and bed and all the rest of it. And then, 8:30 comes around after you've loaded the dishwasher, and then you got to think about going for a run. And do you really want to go for a run? You want to sit in the sofa, don't you? So it's been really nice. I feel a lot richer in personal time.
Yeah, good. Absolutely.
So you got, obviously internally, your staff and you personally, the changes have been implemented. But in terms of clients, so what your clients think of this new way of working? Like you saying about not meeting them in person and driving.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we pulled a section of our customer base and sort of polled them before we made the decision to go fully virtual, and just to sort of see what kind of response we'd get, and all of them supported it. That all of them were either contemplating the same thing or kind of in the same kind of mindset, could completely understand it, and all just said, with a very pragmatic kind of, that makes good sense. I don't know why you didn't do it sooner, or they're all very, very supportive, which is great. I guess time will tell. It's probably still, I mean, obviously we're hunting kind of new business like everybody. We're looking for new clients all the time, and I'm when I'm engaging with prospects, I'm kind of saying, like, I'm more than happy to jump in a car and come and have a face-to-face meeting if you'd like. But if you'd rather Zoom, then equally that's fine. And most of them are, if not all of them, I think we've had one, would rather jump on a Zoom call. I think because they probably got used to the fact that they can save more time in their day, but also, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, aren't we? We can't, although, we can mask up and we can social distance and all the rest of it. It's just easier, isn't it, jumping on a Zoom call? So I don't think there's a huge difference for our customer base, really. We're still, our customers aren't all local. We've got quite a mix, and the way we're engaging with customers now is still the same way we would have engaged with them when they were in the office. We put regular calls into them. We set up video conference calls to talk about particular projects we're doing for them. It seems to be fine. We haven't had any bad press. We haven't had anyone kind of say this really is working for us. We need to see more of you. It's just, I think there's every expectation we would do things digitally as a digital business anyway. So the transition's been pretty straightforward.
And does that allow you, or do you start thinking already about how you're going to almost, expand your geographic boundaries again from an acquisition point of view? So if your customer relationship is all, can be done digitally, you're not limited, right, in terms of a geographic boundary on terms of the customers you try to acquire.
Yeah, so we're running or shortly about to run a couple of national campaigns, whereas in the past we probably would have tried to work more locally within Oxfordshire and maybe the surrounding counties. We have got customers who are much further north, in the sort of Lake District and further south, but they are kind of typically kind of referral clients. We haven't gone looking for clients in the Lake District or in Manchester, whereas I guess we are, our mindset now is, well, location isn't really a boundary anymore. We can comfortably service people from anywhere. I think the proof will really be, I think the real challenge. I mean, I'm a real kind of relationship person, a relationship salesperson, I suppose. I like to press the flesh. I like to meet people, and I like to and just having a cup of coffee and talking to people about things that aren't even work related. That whole piece has really been cut out of the equation altogether, which does make you really focus on your offering more so than you might have done in the past, and making sure that every meeting that you have, every minute counts in that meeting to make sure that you're delivering value and you're communicating your value proposition all of the time, which has been a good process to go through, because it's very easy to sort of almost rock up to a meeting and sort of not sometimes not even deliver a great deal of value, but just focus on kind of building that relationship. And if you're not careful, that can be the pendulum can swing too far the other way, and you haven't got the balance right. So it's been good to revisit that, I think, and put some more focus on that. But it'll be interesting to see where, how in maybe months to come. I mean, our typical sales process for us is somewhere between sort of 3 and 9 months sometimes for some of the projects we're working on. So it's probably still a little bit too early to really tell what kind of impact that's going to have. But yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. But how are you feeling about the future of Xist?
Yeah,
as a virtual business.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether we will remain a virtual business for the long term. I think the jury is still very much out. I think we all do enjoy working in a physical location. That is still in the round what we would all probably prefer to do. I think maybe what the future will look like, one of the options is actually maybe that we work from home 3 or 4 days a week, and we go to a shared office space 1 day a week in somewhere like central Oxford, and maybe we rotate it depending on where people are based. We all do that 1 day from the Midlands or from Swindon or from elsewhere, Bristol or wherever. And I suspect we'll all get very used to a more flexible homework balance, and it'll be difficult to sort of peel people away from what they've
got used to,
and go back to the 9 to 5. But I think as and when we can work from some shared office space and we can get that real face time with colleagues, which is really important, especially from a recruitment and an internship work experience perspective. We used to do a lot of internships and work experience for people locally and people that approached us, and that whole process we're still yet to master. I mean, how you really do that in a virtual way is going to be quite challenging. And it definitely lends itself better to a physical location, but we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, feeling, I think, in the round, really positive.
Good.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
No, well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Alex. And I think, definitely we'll watch how the virtual working and the 100% virtual evolves over time. But it's been really fascinating to hear the story of Xist. So
yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
No, thanks for having us. Thanks a lot.